On June 29, 2013, by 5:47 a.m., a 911 call that would shock Hamburg and Toys R Us came in. Larry Wells, the store manager and a beloved family man, was found unconscious in a pool of blood in his office. A full-blown investigation was launched, and Bernard Grucha, the VP of Loss Prevention and Larry's dear friend, was called in by the police to assist. With suspicions of an inside job and DNA evidence with no match, the police spent months chasing leads that never panned out. The only question in everyone's mind was, who would want to murder Laurence Wells, an all-round great guy, and why?
I confess at the time. Well, what I can tell you is it took my client...
The crime remained a mystery for months, and now a guilty plea.
Welcome back to Crime Mystic, where we cover solved, unsolved, and mysterious cases from across the globe. Today, we are looking at the murder case of Larry Wells, which broke the heart of many, as he was someone that no one would ever want to kill. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, now's your chance to hit the subscribe button and like this video. Now that that's out of the way, let's dive into the shocking Larry Wells murder. Larry Wells was a family man, a friendly manager, and an all-round great guy, known for having a childish side to him. He was born in Dunkirk, New York, on September 22, 1977. Growing up, he was quiet and reserved, and it took him a while to open up to others. But once he did, he was known to be friendly, caring, and warm. When he was 15, he met Jill, who would later become his wife. They were sure that they would not become simply high school lovers, but would become something more. Larry and Jill were so inseparable that they went to the State University of New York State together after completing high school. Larry graduated with a degree in elementary education and then earned a master's from Walden University. He got a job as a substitute teacher at an elementary school, as it was his passion to be around kids. Since he was friendly and approachable, Larry could easily become close to his students. Some of his friends and family members even say that Larry was like a big kid himself. By 2006, Larry had bigger plans to build a family with Jill, his wife, which moved him to work towards financial stability and owning his own home. Despite loving his job as a substitute teacher, he needed permanent work, so he applied for a job at Toys R Us. His job at Toys R Us was meant to be temporary while looking for another job in the education sector, but he climbed up the ranks and became the store manager. Due to his dedication and leadership, Larry became an important company employee. He also enjoyed working at the toy store to bring happiness to children. By 2013, he had been working there for 6 years, and his life was finally coming together. He and his wife and daughter were expecting their second child. Working in the retail sector meant that Larry sometimes had to work long and irregular hours. He sometimes had to work during the holidays and weekends. But Larry never complained and did his work properly. He was asked to work on June 29, 2013, on a Saturday, but he never imagined that that would be a horrifying day for him. Larry came to the Toys R Us store by 3:55 a.m. that day to assist his night shift employees, Cindy and Isaac, with unpacking the stock and preparing the store for opening in the morning. Since they had been working all night with restocking, Larry knew they needed the help. Then, by 4:53 a.m., he received a radio call from Anthony, another employee due for work by 5 a.m. All the doors were locked, and only the manager, Larry, could open the store. The only people in the store at this time were Larry, Cindy, Isaac, and Anthony, and everyone was working in different parts of the store while communicating with the radio. Another employee, Richard, arrived for work after a few minutes and radioed Larry to open the doors, but Larry did not respond to the calls. Richard tried to open the door, but it was locked, so he used the Babies R Us store adjacent to Toys R Us to enter. The adjacent store's door was open to his surprise. Richard punched in for a shift and joined his other employees, not thinking too much about why his boss didn't respond. By 5:40 a.m., there was a persistent beeping alarm sound that was going through the store. He radioed Larry, the only one who could turn off the alarm, but there was no response. When Larry does not respond to the calls, Isaac assumes he is in his office and radios Cindy, asking her to check on their manager. Cindy went to check on him, but everyone was surprised to hear her scream ring throughout the store. All the employees rushed towards the office to find him slumped in the seat, with blood all around him. That is when the 911 call came in, and they all assumed that he had been shot. After a few minutes, paramedics arrived and saw that he was still alive despite being unresponsive, so they raced him to the hospital. But unfortunately, he was pronounced dead upon arrival. The cause of his tragic death was a stab wound, not a gunshot as previously thought. He had been stabbed 3 times in the chest, and the police were called in. His death would begin an investigation that would throw ripples into a seemingly still water. Once the police arrived at the Toys R Us and Babies R Us stores, the first suspects were the 4 employees: Cindy, Isaac, Anthony, and Richard. It had to be an inside job if he was murdered with only these 4 people in the store. There was also no sign of forced entry. The number 1 suspect was Cindy, who worked close to Larry's office and was also the one that found him dead. Another prime suspect was Richard, who had arrived late for work that morning and was also the last person to enter the store. He had entered through the adjacent store, which was also strange. Another worker, Isaac, was elusive during questioning, which made the police suspicious of him. Anthony also refused to answer any questions or participate in the investigation. This left the police stuck with no clear leads and too many suspects. Aside from the suspects, the police found a black and tan Florida Gators hat in the manager's office and also dusted the entire office for DNA. The hat was sent for DNA testing. In a bid for more clues, the police checked the surveillance footage, which would shed more light on the case. To get more help, the police called on Bernard Grutza, the vice president and regional manager for loss prevention, and he rushed to the field within 20 minutes. He assisted the police with any questions they had and was devastated by the death of Larry, as they were friends, and he had also helped him get the job. He took the police to review the surveillance footage, and the police had finally gotten their first strong lead. The surveillance footage showed that at 4:20 a.m., about 25 minutes after Larry arrived, a person was trying to enter the store by picking the locks. The intruder used the Babies R Us section to enter, so it was left open. The footage was grainy and had low resolution, but it was obvious that it was a man. He was wearing the hat found in Larry's office. He was also wearing a scarf and sweatpants and holding a knife. The man sneaked through the store while avoiding the cameras before entering the manager's office and closing the door. 3 minutes after the man entered the office, the footage stopped, which showed that the man had unplugged the recording equipment. Despite having no security footage, the police speculated that Larry had entered the office a few minutes after and was murdered by the intruder. The only way that the police could get the killer was with DNA. So, over the next months, the police collected DNA from co-workers and other employees in other Toys R Us stores, sticking to the idea that this could be an inside job. But when there was no match, they were reaching a dead end. When the case finally blew open, it blew the minds of everyone working on it. After months of collecting DNA, the police had a shocking realization. They had collected DNA from literally every employee in Toys R Us except from one person. Bernard Grutza, the regional member and VP of loss prevention, had been evading giving his DNA throughout the investigation, despite being very helpful to the police. The police found it odd that he had not provided his DNA, as he seemed to be one of the people that wanted to catch the killer the most. The police called him, but he did not respond, and they could not meet him face to face. When they contacted his workplace, they heard he had taken an extended leave of absence because Larry's death devastated him. Going to his home, they saw that he had also moved out of the house he was staying in with his wife, but his wife revealed that she was the one who kicked him out and took out a protection order against him. A few weeks before Larry was murdered, Grutza and his wife had a serious argument that led him to push her out of the way. He went to his room and fired a gun, causing the wife to check on him quickly. Imagine her surprise and anger when she found he only fired it out the window to check if she still loved him. The only place left to find Grutza was at his father's house, and there he was, the new prime suspect in the case. Bernard Grutza willingly cooperated with the police and provided his DNA sample. 2 months later, it was confirmed that Grutza's DNA matched the one on the hat in Larry's office. Grutza vehemently denied all the allegations and maintained his innocence, stating that it was not unusual for his DNA to be in the office since he went there regularly. He also stated that he did not know how his DNA got on the cap. Despite his objections, he was arrested, and the police investigated him, finding a motive that explained everything. It turned out that Grutza was $1.2 million deep in debt, despite holding a high position at work and receiving a substantial salary. He also struggled to pay off his $450,000 home and the late-model Cadillac Escalade. Hospital bills from his wife's cancer treatment also added to it. Living above his means caused him to get deep in debt. Due to his debt, Grutza had been stealing from different shops under his purview. He would steal merchandise and sell it on online markets for a fraction of the cost. He had stolen goods worth over $200,000 he was responsible for. He had been doing this for a couple of years and continued to do this after Larry's murder. Talk about a lack of conscience. And by July 2014, Bernard Grutza made a deal with the state. They agreed to charge him with first-degree manslaughter. If he admitted to his crimes of stealing and forfeited an appeal, he agreed and confessed during the court process. Grutza confessed that he had snuck into the Toys R Us store to steal from the safe. When Larry walked in on him, he panicked and stabbed Larry. He maintained that he did not intend to kill anyone when he went to the store, but only did so because Larry walked in on him. He also admitted to stealing merchandise and cash from all the stores under him. He was sentenced to the maximum penalty of 25 years in prison and 5 years of probation. He also agreed to pay $223,000 to his former employer. He is incarcerated at Sing Sing Correctional Facility in New York, and justice has been served for Larry Wells' murder.
Particularly in stabbing cases where there's not a lot of stab wounds.
Larry Wells' death surprised the world because he was someone that no one would ever want to murder. Unfortunately, his case was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the motive was the oldest in the book, money. This case surprised everyone, raising the question, who can we trust? Let us know what you think in the comment section.